Welcome friends to another 40k video. Today we draw on Arks of Omen Abaddon. We're going to look at how Vashtorr the Archifane gets into the good graces of Abaddon. And we're going to look a little into the background of Vashtorr, where he comes from, and then we're going to look at the Arks of Omen and what leads to them being built. Let's get straight into it. When Abaddon meets Vashtorr, Abaddon finds, through speaking with him, that he's used to dealing with demons who would trick or seek to corrupt him. But he finds that Vashtorr answers questions with frank candour. Vashtorr says that he's the ruler of the Soul Forgers, and that the strange manifestations upon Abaddon's ship come from him, and he could have these things destroy the vengeful spirit, but instead Vashtorr commands them to heal and better the ship. And Abaddon, never a fool, doesn't trust this thing that's just appeared to him, and he checks via Vox channels that what Vashtorr tells him is true. Vashtorr tells Abaddon that he knows of his hunt for a fragment of law that will let him get his hands on a weapon of fate-changing power. And Vashtorr then enlightens Abaddon that his people already have it, but they have not recognised it for what it is. And Vashtorr says that with what he knows, he can interpret the words and bring what Abaddon wants to the fold. Abaddon at this point is still very suspicious, and Vashtorr then lays out his ambitions, that he sought true apotheosis to become a fifth dark god and to join the Gate game in earnest. It is Vashtorr's belief that his path to ultimate divinity lay in the fulfilment of the prophecy. He is more than willing to aid Abaddon in his long war in order to achieve that end. Still unconvinced, Vashtorr says to accompany him to the nearby world of Magdalor, and there Vashtorr will convince Abaddon of what he says. Now, who is Vashtorr? There are rumours about his origins. Perhaps it was created between some ancient arms race between two ancient forces in a galaxy-spanning war. Or perhaps he was birthed by the horrors of the dark age of technology into the warp. Either way, he is the master of the Soul Forgers. It is a realm of dark iron and steam, of clattering cogs and pounding pistons, wherein infernal pacts are sworn and grotesque transformations effected. Vashtorr gets a binding agreement with those that come to him, and in exchange for an agreed price of mortal souls, reaped and offered up to the forgers, the entity that approaches is fed into the machine and transformed into a grotesque melding of war engine and demon, such as a soul grinder, a calamity engine, or an infernal bombard. And such is the usefulness of these forgers that it keeps the dark gods' reprisals at bay. He's the arms dealer of the great game, an agent of no single power, yet precarious ally to all. On Magdalor, the allied powers of Vashtorr and Abaddon would face the Iron Angels Space Marine chapter, where the Iron Angels were a diminished, albeit still stubbornly defiant force. And when Abaddon bursts into the Iron Angels' fortress, he finds that Vashtorr has come before him. Menial servitors have mutated and melded into nightmarish monsters, and he finds that someone else has torn the heart from the angel's crown. He does find the Iron Angels chapter master and the last of his first company staging a great last stand. But Abaddon, aided by Vashtorr, crushed the defiant chaplain, and the hammer of the Soul Forgers was used to do that. And Abaddon himself killed this Space Marine chapter's master. Two mighty warriors traded blow after blow until at last Abaddon's sword was rammed hilt deep through the chapter master's chest. As the demon blade drank of the chapter master's essence, the last of the loyalists was dragged down and slain. After this, and they find inside the coveted prize that they had come to Magdalor to claim. It was a pillar. Later Abaddon, still untrusting of Vashtorr, looks upon the Stygian heart. It was a agglomeration of dozens, perhaps hundreds of individual vessels fused grotesquely by the energies of the warp, and there it had drifted until it was brought before him. This pillar that had been taken, the Iron Angels had called it the Oathing Stone. Abaddon himself could sense nothing mystical about it, and wants to know why Vashtorr wished to get this for them. And Vashtorr is told by Abaddon, who is getting frustrated, to tell him plainly what this is about. And when Abaddon understood the true import of the Oathing Stone, his cruel laughter had rung through the vengeful spirit's bridge and beyond. And this amuses him even later. And so Vashtorr and his minions crawled all over this ancient hulk, this Stygian heart, to enhance it, to transform it into an ark, which would be gifted to an ally of Abaddon's. This one would be given to the Apophary Queen and his coven, to assault Aelec. And so it was with Vashtorr's repairs that vast engines lit all across the flanks and stern of the Stygian heart. Gradually, the behemoth of the deep warp gained momentum, hauling itself forward and sweeping with a ponderous grace away from the assembled warships of the Black Fleet. And Abaddon says, "My Arks of Omen, if the corpse worshippers could see the storm about to break, they would fall to their knees in despair." And with Vashtorr's aid, he had harnessed not just one immense space hulk, but dozens. There they hung, each lumpen as an ogre, and unique in its horrific aspect. They represented a gathering of void-born might, unlike anything unleashed since the fiercest days of the Gothic War. And the Arks are a tool to aid the allied powers of Vashtorr and Abaddon, whose individual might would not let them gain the prize they sought. Thus they had made this bargain, and they would remain allies long enough to achieve the aims they both sought to find. They must gain many esoteric artifacts, and even Vashtorr, with his vast knowledge, did not know all the forms that they would take. Each carried a unique warp signature, and it would allow them to hunt the artifacts. And these could be combined with various methods to combine the artifacts into a key. But first they must gain the artifacts. Each of the arks has been enhanced by additions from Vashtorr, and there are 6 altogether. The 2 ones of particular interest. One is called the, forgive me if I mispronounce this most likely, the Obeliskane, an empiric beacon that burned like a raging bonfire in the warp. It was fed by psychers' souls in a mockery of the Astronomicon, and it was used to allow other ships accompanying the arks to retain cohesion within the raging warp storms of the Great Rift. Then there is the Ferryman. The Ferryman is a demonic pilot entity bound to obey the commands issued by the masters of the Arks of Omen. These grotesque meldings of iron and brass, gears and boilers and pistons would have twitching limbs, bulging eyes, and rippling warp-sensitive cilia. These entities served as both ship's bridge and crew. And it notes here that their ultimate loyalty was to Vashtorr before any mortal. Abaddon, no fool, gave the Arks of Omen to various warlords, but within each of these fleets to ensure that the ships actually did what he wanted, which was to capture these items. He seeded shipmasters or champions whose loyalty to him was beyond question, and who would focus on the mission at hand. In addition, and something I quite like, lastly and most insidiously, the Despoiler made a secret pact with a number of Alpha Legion operatives, who then infiltrated almost every Baal fleet. It would be their task to ensure the key fragments acquisition occurred, even should everything else go awry. And as the Arks succeeded, and each of these items is brought aboard one of the Arks, they are taken to a warp portal, which Vashtorr has ensured is on each of the Arks, and the item is placed there, and wards upon the portal ensure only a key fragment and those bearing it could pass safely into the warp portal, and there they will be taken to a secret location where the fragments could be amassed. And he notes that not every fragment is vital. as Vashtorr was smart enough to create workarounds if they were required, but the more that were gained, the greater the power of the key would be. As the fleet spread, these important recovery missions were entrusted only to Abaddon's most reliable and powerful champions. And there's one other nice little beat towards the end when Vashtorr contacts Abaddon and says that unexpected machinations see the foe amass a force about Malak Baal, too great for any Baal fleet to overcome. The entire 4th Crusade fleet gather about that site like fillings to a magnet. Acquisition cannot be achieved. Abaddon laughs, enjoying that this demon demigod is not so godlike. Vashtorr with irritation says, "Account for your mirth." And Abaddon says, "It does not matter how many armies the corpse worshippers amass at Malak Baal. The fates have been cruel indeed to those loyalist lapdogs. Sainted Gilliman himself could take the field there. He still could not stop what is coming for them." Vashtorr asks what, and Abaddon responds with a single word, Angron. And that, friends, is the basic lore, as in the book that landed on my doorstep 3 hours ago, Arks of Omen Abaddon. Clearly from this point, Abaddon's forces are going to go out and various conflicts will happen, and then I think we'll see in the next book what happens next, which should be interesting. That's where I'm going to end today's video. Got any comments to make? Any questions to ask? I can try and answer them for you. Let me know.